Welcome to Talking Jazz. My guest today is Camille Thurman, incredible saxophonist, vocalist, educator, composer, and a really wonderful role model for all of us. So, welcome, Camille.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's good to have you. And I'm actually excited. I get to do some projects with you too. So we'll share more about that soon. For listeners to get to know you a little bit, I know there's a really cool backstory how you got into jazz and learned about your neighborhood. So tell us a little bit about that.
I grew up in a town called St. Albans, which is in the heart of Queens in New York City. And I had the good fortune of growing up in a neighborhood that had some really rich jazz history. And my mother, being a school teacher, she made it her business to make sure that I knew where I came from, the wonderful artists that lived in my neighborhood and their contributions to the world. And through her showing me the artists that lived there, I got introduced to jazz. People like Count Basie, Milt Hinton, Ella Fitzgerald, Lena Horne, and so many wonderful entertainers like James Brown, of course, Illinois Jacquet. They all lived at one point in this neighborhood, of course, way before my time, unfortunately. But my mom, being a school teacher, she made sure that she would go to the library, take out books. We would read autobiographies. We would also check out CDs. We would look at documentaries. And even though I was a little reluctant in doing it at 8 years old, she taught me so much about the music. And that's where I got introduced to jazz.
That's really cool. And then what came first? The saxophone, singing came together?
The thing about my mom, she never pushed me to play music, even though she played piano and she sung. She kind of let it be a thing where if I came to it on my own, she would then, begin to nurture me. I remember the first time I played the piano, and I didn't formally take lessons. I just played it because I heard her practicing at night, and I would hear, even though I was sleeping, what she was doing, and come the next day when she wasn't looking and try to play the same thing and figure it out. And one time I surprised her by telling her that I was going to be in a talent show. And she was like, "What are you going to do? You don't play music." And I was like, "Yes, I do." And I asked her to come to the piano, and I played something that I heard her play the night before, and she was flawed. She was like, "How did you figure that out? How did you do that? I didn't teach you anything." And that's when she realized, okay, we have to do something for Camille and give her some instruction. And the rest is history.
As they say. Yeah, that's a cool story. Reminds me of the Elton John movie where he would sneak to the piano. Very cool. Yeah, so we'll dig more into your story. There's many more aspects, but I think it would be also fun to listen to one of your selections that you sent me. And you sent me some really cool live recordings, which is really special because that's not something that's available easily. And so we can hear you. We can imagine going to Bryant Park in the middle of New York City and sitting there. And I think this was from about 2 years ago and features your group, which of course you often call the Daryl Green Quartet. And Daryl Green is your husband, correct?
We co-lead the band together. Yes.
Right. Co-leader and co-partner and so many things. And so you picked Love Vibrations. So give us a little perspective on what we're going to hear and what the listeners can focus on.
A few years ago, we were encouraged by our mentor, Antoine Roney, who was a phenomenal saxophonist, to look into Horace Silver's repertoire, particularly the songs he did on the Blue Note label in the 70s. I didn't know he wrote lyrics, let alone just the subject matter of the songs was so different in the style from what I grew up listening to, which was, Filthy McNasty and a song from my father. And we decided to create a project devoted to just these songs from that particular era, where we get to feature music that people don't really know too well from that period of time of his career, but also reintroduce the music to them in a way that is through our lens or through our ears and how we hear it and interpret it. So this is Love Vibrations.
That's really cool. And thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I was actually just thinking, did Horace write a lot of the lyrics? Like, for example, for Sister Sadie or these things, did he?
Wrote the lyrics to Love Vibrations, Nobody Knows. all the songs that he basically wrote for the Blue Note label, that Healing Feeling United States of Mind, all he wrote the lyrics.
Very
And there's some
interesting.
configuration of bands and on those albums too.
Well, I'll have to go check that out. That's really cool. But yeah, let's have a listen. So this is the rendition of Love Vibration, Horace Silver's Love Vibrations, as could be heard in Bryant Park. Bruce Edwards on guitar, Tom DiCarlo on bass, Victor Gold on piano, and Daryl Green on drums. And of course, my guest today, Camille Thurman, on vocals and saxophone.
Surrounds my lonely heart, and life has lost its thrill. Wondering why my mind's been torn apart. Have no dreams left to be. And then you came my way to wash away the gloom and show the strength of love stepped in to gently plant its seed, and things began to grow. In my heart, I feel there is a and I want you to know you are my one true love, the one I'm waiting for, and I know you're meant for me.
That was Horace Silver's Love Vibrations, a live recording from Bryant Park, and featuring my guest today on vocals and saxophone, Camille Thurman. We talked a little bit about your background, about Horace Silver. We're going to hear another live recording, this time from Dizzy's Club. This starts with a very cool a cappella vocal intro. And, this is not something any vocalist can pull off. It's intricate lines and quite sophisticated. But when you do that, do you think the saxophone notes? I'm curious, or how does the instrumental and vocal part work together?
I think more shapes, because when you're playing the saxophone, you're thinking of shapes. And when you're singing, you're thinking of shapes, except you feel those shapes. Whether it's an intricate melody or something very simple, it's really about the shape that makes the melody. So
that's interesting. I was always watching when David Baker was teaching, and when he would explain some lines or some patterns, he would always finger along on some instrument.
Yeah, that's the shape.
That's the shape to give you the pitches. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. And of course, the repertoire here again, this is not your regular Great American Songbook fare. I mean, maybe on the underground. Give us a little backdrop how you pick your repertoire, or what speaks to you when you pick a song to sing.
Sure. Well, I always love to take advantage of the fact that because I sing and I play, that it offers opportunities to explore music in a different lens. Because a lot of times, if you think about it, you have the composer write the music and then they write the lyrics, and that becomes the standard. And vocally, as vocalists, that's the music that's available to us. But oftentimes we miss out on exploring music that maybe wasn't written with a vocalist in mind, that could shed light on how a vocalist could approach it. And in this case, for Nefertiti, the melody is extremely beautiful. And I like the fact that I get to sing it, vocalizing it, rather than putting lyrics to it, because sometimes lyrics locks you in. Lyrics are great, but then also there's opportunities where you can get into a deeper, more spiritual side of just vocalizing the sound of the melody, and what comes out is what you make it. And in this case, that's what we really wanted to do, explore the beauty of the range of the melody, the shape of the melody, the color, the texture, and of course, yeah, those intervals that you might not really experience hearing a vocalist sing. And then, of course, when I'm thinking about repertoire as a performer, that's my opportunity to introduce to audiences people who are my standards. Because historically, we've kind of created, how could I say it, a book of music within this genre that, okay, these are the standards, these are the classics, when there are so many other composers that would fit into the same canon, if not maybe even more so, that we might not have a chance to really hear because we only close ourselves to particular composers. So this music was written by Wayne Shorter, who I think is one of the standard composers of our genre, jazz, and wanted to showcase it in a different light. I love voice.
I love the way you put that and phrased it. There's a specific canon that got established, and we're looking at it from different angles, from race angles, from gender angles, and seeing that, of course, the dominant group of a specific time is the one that sets the standard, but that doesn't mean, there's a lot richer things to explore. And we had a great example recently with Terry Lynn putting out the standards in gender terms of female composers. So that's a very important task for all of us to make sure we pick with intention and we know what to represent and what to showcase. So yeah, very cool. So this was at Dizzy's, at one of the best clubs there is, right? Again, it features your band. So that was a live performance. Let's have a listen. So this is Nefertiti and Detour Ahead combined. And again, it features Tom DiCarlo, Marvin Stuhl, Wallace Roney Jr. on trumpet, and Daryl Green on drums. And of course, my guest today, Camille Thurman, on vocals and saxophone.
la da dee dee, la ee da da dee da da dee la la. Smooth road, clear day, but why am I the only one traveling this way? How strange the road to love could be so easy. Could there be a detour up ahead? Wake up, slow down before you crash and break your heart. Gullible cloud. You see, you're headed in the wrong direction. Can't you see the detour up ahead? The further you will travel, the harder to unravel. Spin around you. Turn back while there is time. Can't you see the danger sign? Soft shoulders surround you. Oh, lucky me that suddenly I saw the light. I'm turning back away from all this trouble around you. Smooth road, smooth road. Up ahead.
That was Nefertiti, Detour Ahead combined. This was a live recording from a 2021 Dizzy's performance by my guest today, Camille Thurman, who you heard on saxophone and vocals. Well, since we're talking about Dizzy's here, let's talk about Lincoln Center and your role in the Lincoln Center Orchestra, which, from what I understand, you had 2 seasons you were touring with them. You did a lot of collaborations. This was at a time when there was a lot of pressure put on the Lincoln Center Orchestra on diversifying. Whatever background you want to can give us about your role or continued role would be great, but it was a major milestone to have you part of that orchestra and participate in the role you did.
Well, at that particular time, I was working with Sherman Irby on a different project. He had a Christmas project he was putting together. And I believe the vocalist at the time was having her baby on the day of the concert.
Oh,
he asked me, I think it was within like a week's time, to learn the music and do the concert. And I was like, of course. And one thing I love about Sherman is he writes music that vocally is a challenge, but it's a good challenge. And I love that it has the freedom for me as also a musician to just be a musician. It's not restricted to sing the melody and then, okay, come back on the head. No, I'm part of the process of creating the music too. I learned the music, and one of the concerts, it was during the holiday season, Winton came, and I didn't even know he was there. And he observed the whole concert, and then he came back again the second night. And of course, I found out by him coming backstage to hang with the guys in the band, because they all, work with him. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, do you happen to play clarinet?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure." And he's like, "Okay." And Winton has his way of just asking a direct question. And that's so I'm thinking, okay, he just asked me to play clarinet. What does that mean? And this was, I think, about December, I would say 2017. January 2018, I won an opportunity with the U.S. State Department to travel to Africa and tour 5 countries out there with my band. So Daryl and I, we got to perform and tour and host workshops in Mozambique, Nigeria, Senegal, Mauritania, and Cameroon. Wow. And one night, while I'm in Cameroon, I get a call 3 a.m. from Walter Blanding. And it's funny because the year before that was the Ella Fitzgerald Centennial, and I had gotten asked to guest with the band as a vocalist and saxophonist, singing Ella's music and playing. So it was kind of ironic that like a year later, not even a year later, I get this call from Walter, and he said, "Hey, Winton and I, we've been going back and forth talking for some time, and I have to leave the band. And I wanted to know if you'd be interested in taking my place." Of course, I wanted to drop the phone because it's like 3 a.m. in Cameroon. And I'm like, well, I have like a 50 million questions in my head. How did you get my number? And da-da-da-da-da. And wow, you're asking me. I, of course, was thinking about all the contracts and everything that we had for the next year. And I'm like, how am I going to get out of this? What am I going to tell them? And tours. So I said, you know what? Could I have one night just to think about it and figure some things out before I give you an answer? Because I need to make sure that some things are situated before I commit. And he was like, "Of course, I know it's a big question. We've never really asked anybody to do this." And I was like, "Yeah, that's true too." So he gave me a night, and immediately I called my mentor, Antoine Roney. I called Tia Fuller, and I called my mother. And I had a conversation with my husband. And at the time, it was interesting because I could feel that we were getting to a point where as a band, we were making some movement. But this was a huge opportunity too that I knew was very special. And understanding the history of it being this organization that people around the world look up to and listen to as the voice of jazz. And then here is an opportunity for a woman to not just do a concert with them, no, tour and perform and travel with them full time as one of the band members was a huge, huge, huge decision. And every last one of them, the people that I talked to, my mentors and my family, said, "Do it. And I was like, but what about figuring out the logistics? And then they said, look, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. They could have asked anybody else in the entire universe, and they asked you. And there's a reason why they asked you. And I thought about it, and that question that and went and asked me, and I was like, he probably was planning this all. And sure enough, I said yes to committing to do it. And at first we agreed to just do 1 year to see how it would go. And then 1 year turned into 2 years. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had as a musician, because that band has so much history. And when you play in that section, you hear and you feel it. So that was a school in itself, and really teaching you, wow, how to absorb the music, how to breathe in the music, but also how to feel the music as a unit. And then, of course, the added perk of being a saxophonist, you play 5, 6 different woodwinds every week, different music, different material, different historical contexts, different avenues of approaching it, whether it's via visual art and music, composition, standards that last for like the last 100 years. And it was just an excellent opportunity, which really helped me as a musician, and I believe pushed me beyond what I would have comfortably been okay with, and also taught me a lot as a band leader.
I mean, just listening to you talking about what an incredible opportunity to be able to do that and soak that all in. And, you know, you must have come out as a whole new person after those 2 years.
I did, but also too, it gave me a lot of perspective, because a lot of times people talk about the conversation of, you know, women in jazz, but we don't get to quite hear the experiences of the women directly in the heart of those conversations. And it was almost as if I was an observer, seeing not just the dynamic of the outside and the inside, but even across, because there were situations where audience members, they themselves had to be educated. And it wasn't just, oh, well, we got to, conform to change the institution. It's like, well, the institution is also the audience, believe it or not. And I never forget one time we were in Australia touring, and an audience member walked up to Sherman and was like, oh, that was so polite of you to give that young lady a solo. And Sherman was like, we gave her a solo because she's up here just like everybody else is, and everybody else can play, and she can play too. And she deserves a right to be able to let you hear what she sounds like, just like the rest of the gentlemen in this world. I mean, just in this band. And I was like, wow, that's an amazing perspective, seeing it from the flip side of how audiences sometimes need to be educated, and seeing that women are there not just as, you know, a visual appeasing thing, but to actually show that, no, we play this music too, and at the same level of other men. And yes, it's possible. And we do exist.
I'm embarking on a huge project looking at the stereotyping effect that we still have to look at, that audience members and everybody goes for the first impression on the looks first. You enter the stage, you know, and I look even worse foreign. Tell me, oh, you look like a school teacher. And there's certain expectations, you know, that you get first. And then you have to respond to it. And it changes the music and changes the dynamics. And we're slowly changing it, but it's very important, as you say, to raise the awareness that we're all, you know, part of the system where those expectations come at us at first, and then we'll have to clarify. So thank you for being an ambassador, and this is a really important role that you played there. But let's listen to some music. Well, there's much more to talk about, because we do have one more of your live recordings, and yeah, fitting title, Our Day Will Come, right? This is from a live on the radio, WGBH, and we're gonna hear Lonnie Plaxico and Tony Wansey and Daryl Green on drums, and of course Camille Thurman on vocals and saxophone.
Our day will come. We'll have everything. We will share the joy. Falling in love can bring no one. Can tell me that I'm too young. I love you so, and you love me. No, 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 no. If we just wait a while, nothing's for us. Think, love, and wear a smile. Our dreams have minded to share, because we always stay in love this way. Our day, when it will come, will come, will come, will come.
That was our Day Will Come live recording. And you heard my guest today, Camille Thurman, on vocals and saxophone. And we talked quite a bit about the experience of getting 2 seasons with the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, or Jazz at Lincoln Center, which of course is the experience of a lifetime. And I don't want to say how lucky you are, I say how deserving you are to have had that opportunity. Smooth transition, but there's the next tune is actually also called My Shining Hour. So of course you got some recognition, but you're also an educator. You're an assistant professor at McGill, and you're teaching. You have a thing called the Haven Hang. Let's talk a little bit about your perspective as an educator and sharing and being a model and your purpose with those activities.
While I was touring with the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, I noticed that every time we would go to different cities, I would encounter young women who would wait backstage or wait outside the stage. And in some cases, they would even personally inbox me, whether it was Twitter or Instagram or finding my email on my contact page. And I noticed every time they had the same kind of anxiety that I had when I was 15 years old trying to play, figuring out how to navigate being in spaces where you're the only woman, or how to develop confidence, how to find mentors and role models when you don't see anybody that you can identify with. I was sitting home during the pandemic, and I had a moment where I was like, wow, this is the first time I'm sitting still and I'm home. Again, I was thinking about this vision that I had while I was with the orchestra, that I wanted to create something for young women. And being with the Jazz at Lincoln Orchestra was a wonderful opportunity because it put me on a platform of being seen and heard. Even I didn't really have to do anything but literally play. And that was intriguing to me, because every time I would talk to young women, they were just like, man, you don't understand. Just seeing a picture of you in that orchestra holding a horn, and the fact that you're wearing a dress because you choose to wear a dress versus, having to wear something else, is empowering. And it made me think of how, like, in life, we have these examples where sometimes just the presence or just the action of just being there is powerful and impactful. What if we can create a space where we can unpack that and talk about the process of getting there, or of doing it, or of maintaining, staying in it? And I thought of a couple of mentors and friends that I knew right away. And I called them up and I said, hey, would you mind talking with me for an hour just to talk about how you did it? I mean, we're going to acknowledge and celebrate your accomplishments, but most importantly, we want to acknowledge you for the process of how you did it and share it as information for young women, because there's a need. And the first session that I did created one of those Google Sheets where people can submit questions anonymously. And I had about 50 questions that were filled out. And I sat down before I did the stream and went through all of them. And I literally set up a camera, put the computer on my table, and went through every last question. And while I was doing it, people were kind of asking questions too, live and also watching. I was just surprised by the reception of it, because it created a space that was needed. And afterwards, I had a couple of friends who were educators, and also even some young women, to say thank you for just creating this space, because we needed something where we can be heard and also be able to hear it. And in that session, I was able to just share my experiences and how I figured it out. And then I said, okay, we got to keep this going. So that's when I brought in the help from some of my great friends and mentors. I asked Dee Dee Bridgewater, who's like a godsend. She's like my godmother in my head, who's always looked out for me as a mentor and has cheered me on. And I asked her to come and join us. Of course, the same for Diane Reeves and Tia Fuller. We had Maxine Gordon. And then I wanted to break outside of just jazz and just feature women in general in the arts. So we reached out to Crystal Torres, who works with Beyonce as her trumpeter. and right now is touring, 8 months pregnant. Of course, we had artists from other disciplines like Nia Love, who's a choreographer, well known in the dance world, as well as some writers, some other wonderful women who are doing work with other women organizations. And it's just been such a healing source. I've had women from all ages reach out and say, I'm not even a musician and I just log on just for the inspiration. And it's been just a great success.
That's amazing. So can people find the space and the past issues?
Sure. So I have about, I believe, 15 episodes listed on YouTube.
Okay.
There's one more list to upload with Patrice Rushen soon.
Oh,
People can access them anytime, any day. They're free. They're online for just people, particularly young women or people who identify as women, to just find and get that information. Right now, I'm in the process of booking Haven Hang tours, visiting at different colleges. We've done a couple of Haven Hang sessions at some high schools and some universities and music centers where I basically get to bring it to them directly. And it's been a success doing that because band teachers, instructors are all really excited to have something available for their young women musicians to have that one-on-one time and be able to experience their own personal Haven Hang.
Just look for Haven Hang and look for my guest name, Camille Thurman, and on YouTube. And I'm sure you'll find all the episodes and you can follow. But yeah, I agree. The role model and finding a space is one of the most important aspects. And seeing somebody like you, I remember, I'm way older. So in the 80s, I went to this festival in Austria and I saw Carla Bley. She was conducting the big band and then she sat at the organ and her wild hair was going and my mouth just dropped up. And I was like, that's what I want to do. You need to be able to identify that there's a space and an option. So yeah, My Shining Hour, right? Great title for that. And this is from one of your recordings that's also available called Spring Awakening. And we're going to hear Victor Gold and Tom DiCarlo, Daryl Green, and of course, Camille Thurman on saxophone and vocals.
This will be my shining hour, calm and happy and bright. And in my dreams, your face will flower through the darkness of the night, like the flame of holy for me, or an angel who is watching over me. This will be my shining hour till I'm home with you again.
That was My Shining Hour a track from the album Spring Awakening by my guest today, Camille Thurman. Yeah, we talked a lot about all your incredible accomplishments, but what's on the horizon? What's next? Any projects that we should know about coming up?
I, along with Gerald Green, have a project coming out entitled Fortitude, which is an album featuring our compositions with a fantastic band, Keith Brown on piano, Bruce Edwards on guitar, Wallace Roney Jr. on trumpet, and Tom DeCarlo on bass, and Daryl Green and myself. And we're excited to release that soon. I also have another project that I'm really stoked about doing with the great legendary Charles Tolliver, celebrating the 60th anniversary of Africa Brass. It's going to be a concert held at the Kennedy Center in October, and it's going to feature a reorchestrated version of Train's original Africa Brass with a large ensemble and choir, and yours truly as a guest feature artist. And we have some other exciting things too happening. If you go to www.camillethurmanmusic.com, you can see our itinerary and find out if we're going to be performing at a city near you.
Camille Thurman, Thurman. Go and check it out, because catch her while you can. This is one of the busiest people out there, which is a wonderful thing. And of course, I'm excited to have her on an upcoming album too, and hopefully to be released in 2024. So we'll have an adventure coming up. But thank you, Camille, so much for sharing all your perspectives and your music and so much more with us. We have one last track, which is actually a duo for tomorrow with Victor Gold. What should we know about that one? Send us in listening to this.
I love featuring composers that I admire. Being a composer myself, I'm a huge fan of Wayne Shorter. I love Buster Williams and I love McCoy Tyner. And this particular piece, I believe it came from the album Intervisions, and it was initially McCoy playing with a choir of singers, this song. And I fell in love with the melody. And then also I fell in love with the recording that I saw. I can't remember off the top of my head who was doing it, but I believe it was Pharoah Sanders. And I was just like, wow, this is such a great song. We need to do this. So this is for tomorrow, featuring myself and Victor Gould. A little intimate, but give you some hope for what's ahead.
Great performance by Victor Gould on this too. You know, having to live up to McCoy Tyner, of course, is a task, but well done. Yeah, thank you, Camille. And best of luck with all the great ventures. And here is For Tomorrow, featuring my guest, Camille Thurman, with Victor Gould. Thank you for listening to Talking Jazz. My guest today was saxophonist, vocalist, educator, composer Camille Thurman.
You can hear Talking Jazz every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Mondays at 7 p.m. on WETF 105.7 in South Bend, Indiana, or online at jazzradiowetf.org, and Fridays at 8 p.m. on WICR 88.7 Indianapolis. Previous shows are also on my YouTube channel, Monika Herzig, MonikaHerzig. Please subscribe to the Talking Jazz playlist. Thank you for listening.